Good, happy Wednesday morning, October 9th, 2019. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First step, 3 injured in crash on Route 13 in Milford. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Charisse LeClaire.
There'll be halting goats and geese and sheep and all the chowder you can eat in a big parade with floats and marching bands. Horses.
Well, Tom, police say two vehicles collided in what they call a very dangerous intersection here in town. Now, that original call came in at about 3:15 this afternoon. They say a pickup truck was traveling southbound on Route 13. A Kia Soul was driving north, attempting to make a left-hand turn onto 101 westbound. Police say from the initial investigation, it appears the operator of the Kia Soul turned in front of the pickup and the two vehicles collided. All three people involved were taken to area hospitals. There were two people in the Kia Soul. They were taken to the Elliott. The male occupant of the Tundra pickup truck was taken to St. Joseph. The severity of their injuries is unknown at this time. Captain Fry says they're called to this area far too often.
It's a common occurrence, unfortunately, in that area on Route 13 to have these types of accidents. It's very congested, and that we've gotten used to it, unfortunately.
Now the accident scene has been cleared. Traffic is moving smoothly at this hour. Live in Milford, I'm Charisse LeClaire, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Portsmouth approves ban on plastic foam, other plastic products. Businesses told to switch to composable products. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Jessica Moran.
There'll be halting goats and geese and sheep and all the chowder you can eat in a big parade with floats and marching bands.
I really think it's great. I love living in Portsmouth because I think we're really on the cutting edge of these sort of social initiatives.
Portsmouth City Council has approved a citywide ban on styrofoam and a ban on single-use plastics such as cups, containers, and straws on city property unless there's a compost bin on site. City-owned properties including Prescott Park, Market Square, and events such as the Arts Festival, Market Square Day, and First Night would be affected. City Councilor Josh Denton pushed for the ordinance.
To me, it's just a common sense thing. We started with plastic shopping bags back then because everybody shops. It's that simple. And fast forwarding several years, times have changed, and there's far more that has to be done.
Some business owners in the Market Square area are already using compostable items. They say it costs more money, and while some agree with the ban, others have questions about how to maintain a balance between the costs and the environmental impact.
It's certainly more expensive to go that route, both in terms of acquiring compostable items or avoiding the plastic, which is much less expensive than some of the alternatives. But in the big picture, I think it's worth it, and most of our consumers seem to agree.
I think the city needs to work on a composting program. It's hard for me sometimes to justify the increased cost of compostable products when the consumer's just going to walk out of their door and throw it in a regular trash bin or recycling bin.
And the ban doesn't go into effect until December 31st of 2020. Businesses are allowed to use up their 2020 inventory. In Portsmouth, Jessica Moran, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Keene family seeking answers after cat shot and badly injured. Police asking anyone with information to contact the department. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Charisse LeClaire.
They'll be haunting goats and geese and sheep and all the chowder you can eat in a big parade with floats and marching bands.
Well, the cat's owner told us at first they thought her cat had been hit by a car. When she brought her to the vet, they discovered the cat had been shot.
It's scary.
Andrea Lake wants to know who shot her 4-year-old cat, Batman. A woman knocked on her door last week asking if an injured black cat on Elm Street was hers.
I went out, called for him, found him under a bush with his legs not working. We rushed him to the animal hospital, thinking he had been hit by a car.
But that wasn't the case. An X-ray revealed a metal projectile inside the cat that had broken into 2 pieces near Batman's spine.
Shocked, and so was the vet.
Authorities think because of the injury, it may have been a BB or pellet gun or possibly a low-caliber weapon used.
Right now, he has some weakness in his hind legs. His left leg works about 30%. His right leg is like 5. He doesn't have control over his bladder. It's affecting his kidneys.
Batman is being treated here at Cheshire Animal Hospital. Andrea is hoping his kidneys will go back to normal and he'll regain use of his back legs. He was born at the family's home and means so much to Andrea and her kids.
Batman he's the best cat. He really is. He's so sweet, and he's a hunter, and he's good with the kids. They love him.
She's hoping someone comes forward with more information.
We have 2 outdoor cats. We no longer let the other one outside because we don't know. We live in a school zone, which means that somebody was shooting in a school zone, which is scary.
Police are continuing to investigate. They say if you saw anything suspicious, to give them a call. In Keene, Charisse LeClaire, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Medals awarded to family of World War II prisoner of war. Son says his father didn't talk much about how he escaped. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Kristen Carosa.
They'll be haunting goats and geese and sheep and all the chowder you can eat in a big parade with floats and marching bands.
With the help of Congresswoman Annie Custer and her office staff, a Purple Heart and a Prisoner of War medal have been given to the family of Lawrence Minahan.
This one was particularly special because I knew the family so well from my hometown, Hopkinton, but also because my father had also been a prisoner of war in World War II.
At 19 years old, Minahan went into the army. He was sent to France to fight the Battle of the Bulge.
In January of 1945, he was captured and missing in action for several months.
But thankfully, he was able to escape.
He had been a prisoner for 3 months. He was on a work detail, and he and a couple buddies skipped away from the work detail and escaped and made it back to Allied lines, where he said it was the best day of his whole life.
He returned home months later after being hospitalized, something his son tells us he never talked about.
Many people that era felt that the heroes were the people who didn't make it home, so he didn't talk about it, and because we were during the Vietnam War era, we didn't ask about it.
Minahan died in 1980 at 56 years old, and now 74 years after he served, he received the recognition his family always felt he deserved.
He never asked for praise and didn't seek it out, yet I always felt it was important that that sacrifice he made was recognized, and that's what this medal means to me and my family.
In Concord, Kristen Carosa, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Rochester police urge gun owners not to leave firearms in unattended vehicles after spike in thefts. Almost a dozen firearms thefts from vehicles reported in 2019, most left unlocked. Let's take a listen to that video from WR News 9, Gene Mackin.
There'll be hogs and goats and geese and sheep and all the chowder you can eat in a big parade with floats and marching bands.
Well, Tom and Monica, police here say car break-ins are up, and with guns being stolen, they say that puts everyone in danger. Rochester police are tracking an alarming trend. Since January, thefts from vehicles are spiking, higher than any time in the past 5 years. More than 185 reported so far in 2019. Most of those cars were left unlocked. And in almost a dozen cases, firearms were stolen.
Most of these motor vehicles are unlocked, but they do have firearms inside, sometimes loaded, sometimes ammunition inside the vehicle as well. And these people committing these crimes are now arming themselves, so to speak, with these firearms that they find inside the vehicles.
Rochester police say 5 guns were stolen from cars since August alone, leading them to urge people to lock cars, don't leave valuables in view, and don't leave guns unsecured and unattended in vehicles.
It's very concerning. It's concerning to us from an officer safety standpoint as well as to the community. We don't know where these guns are going, who's getting these guns from these unlocked motor vehicles, and of course, what are they going to do with these guns once they get them?
And police here say the consequences can be far-reaching. A gun stolen last year from here was recovered at a crime scene in Boston. Live in Rochester tonight, Gene Mackin, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Woman accused of sexually assaulting 5-year-old child. Let's take a listen to that video from WR News 9.
There'll be hogs and goats and geese and sheep and all the chowder you can eat in a big parade with floats and marching bands.
Tonight, a woman is accused of sexually assaulting a 5-year-old. Nashua police say 38-year-old Marilyn Ortiz originally reported that a man had assaulted that child. Police say the investigation discovered it was actually her. Ortiz is charged with aggravated felonious sexual assault and filing a false police report. She was released on personal recognizance bail and will be arraigned later this month.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Sanders' daughter-in-law dies at 46 after cancer diagnosis. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Monica Hernandez.
There'll be hogs and goats and geese and sheep and all the chowder you can eat in a big parade with floats and marching bands.
The daughter-in-law of Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders has died. Rain Riggs was 46. She was married to Levy Sanders, who ran for Congress in New Hampshire last year. The neuropsychologist was the director of behavioral medicine at Dartmouth Medical School for several years. A funeral home says Riggs died Saturday, shortly after she was diagnosed with cancer.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And our thoughts and prayers go to Bernie Sanders' family and Bennett hits warn on cost of Medicare for all. Democratic presidential candidate touts public option plan in New Hampshire trip. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
When family and friends come together on a beautiful day, what better place to be than in your own backyard?
Brick buildings on campus, leaves changing with the season, and a candidate looking for a spark. At Colby Sawyer College, Michael Bennett jokingly referred to himself as a mild-mannered moderate. But lately, he's been spoiling for a fight.
The American people aren't about to give up the privilege of having a choice on health care for the privilege of paying $31 trillion in taxes.
Here in New Hampshire, where neighboring Senator Elizabeth Warren appears to be gaining momentum in the first-in-the-nation primary, Bennett is going on offense, saying Warren needs to, quote, be honest regarding her Medicare for All plan.
At least Bernie's willing to say how he would pay for it. I don't think most Americans would accept what he's saying, but we all need to be honest about our plans and what our proposals are.
Bennett says the Medicare for All price tag is too steep, and he's not just talking about dollars and cents.
The issue is not about it passing through Congress. The issue is whether we want to lose the presidency and lose a bunch of purple states.
The Colorado senator has his own public option plan, which would build on the Affordable Care Act. He's also counting on some polls that show Democrats cool to the idea of a government-run system.
There needs to be some changes, but I don't think you want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
Bennett understands there's risk involved here, that his plan won't seem big enough or bold enough in comparison to Medicare for All. But he believes once voters start digging in on the issue, they'll come around to his position.
I think what they're going to do is look for somebody who's got a common sense agenda that can unite Democrats, yes, but also can win back some of the 9 million people that voted twice for Barack Obama and once for Donald Trump.
In New London, Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And now let's take a look at your 2020 New Hampshire candidate tracker for today, October 9th. We have 3 candidates in New Hampshire today. The first candidate, Michael Bennett, Town Hall with employees at Eversource in Manchester, New Hampshire. Joe Biden, he has 2 events today in New Hampshire. His first event, Rochester, New Hampshire Town Hall with Joe Biden at Governor's Inn and Restaurant, 78 Wakefield Street, Rochester, New Hampshire, at 12:15 p.m. In Manchester, New Hampshire Town Hall with Joe Biden at McIntyre Ski Area, 50 Colette Way, Manchester, New Hampshire, at 4:30 p.m. In Joe Seastack, he has 2 events today in New Hampshire. His first event, town meeting organized by local Democrats at Pelham Public Library in Pelham, New Hampshire at 6 p.m. and a town meeting organized by local Democrats at Maplewood Nursing Home in Westmoreland, New Hampshire at 8:15 p.m. And those are all the candidates that are in New Hampshire today. U.S. stocks feature point to slightly higher open. U.S. stock index features were slightly higher Wednesday morning. Turkey moves military convoys and special forces to Syria border. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Now to fast-moving developments after President Trump suddenly decided to pull out U.S. troops from a key region of Syria, which would leave Kurdish fighters who were our allies in the fight against ISIS to fend for themselves against Turkey. Tonight, Turkish troops are already gathering at the Syrian border, ready to move in against those Kurdish fighters. And this evening, the Turkish president has indicated an operation is imminent. He's also been invited to the White House. ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell from Istanbul.
Tonight, Turkey moving its war machine into place. Long convoys of military hardware and special forces up to the border with Syria, setting the stage for a military invasion targeting the Kurds. President Trump now facing a fierce backlash for pulling back American troops straight after a phone call with President Erdogan of Turkey. President Trump accused of abandoning a key partner in the fight against ISIS.
At some point, we have to bring our people back home. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
Is it a firm decision, sir?
It's always a firm decision.
The president standing by his decision, today insisting in a tweet, in no way have we abandoned the Kurds, who are special people and wonderful fighters. We're helping the Kurds financially/weapons. But without the close protection from US troops at the border, Kurdish forces are far more vulnerable to a much stronger Turkish army. For years, we've followed the Kurds in their fight against ISIS, here battling street by street to liberate the city of Raqqa.
That the US coalition is working with, they are the foot soldiers who are moving up to their forward base.
Sozdar was the Kurdish woman leading a band of soldiers. No body armour, no tanks or Humvees. That very night, she was killed in battle. One of 11,000 Kurds who paid the ultimate price, defending their homeland and protecting America and Europe from ISIS. Tonight, more than 10,000 ISIS militants sit in Syrian prisons under the watch of Kurdish guards. So what happens if those Kurds are forced to leave those prisons and fight the Turks? David on the ground asking about the threat of those fighters.
There are reports up to 10,000 ISIS fighters are being held by American-backed forces right now. What do you do with those fighters?
That's a really good question, and it's a tough question. We've got to get the countries to take ownership of their folks who came here into the battlefield, take them back, and figure out how to bring them to justice.
Now even bigger questions about those fighters. Ian joins us from Istanbul. And Ian, as you pointed out there, one of the major concerns are the thousands of ISIS fighters being watched, secured by our Kurdish allies. We had access to those prisons and our reporting there just weeks ago. Some of the prisoners telling us if they get out, they want to go after America. So what now? What's the concern on the ground there tonight?
Absolutely, David, a very real danger, and what makes it even worse is that the Kurdish forces are now saying that if Turkey crosses over the border, then they're going to pull back their troops from the areas around the prison, other newly liberated areas, to try and reinforce the front lines. And also this evening, General Vittal, the former head of American forces in the Middle East, writing that President Trump's decision threatens to undo 5 years' worth of fighting against ISIS and also undermine America's credibility. David?
A lot of moving parts on this as well, Ian. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.